History is full of moments that looked ordinary until they changed everything. In these 8 stories, a speech, a payment, a name, and even a military base all end up carrying a much bigger consequence than anyone expected. 5 student speeches helped move Virginia's capital. They were delivered as May Day exercises at William and Mary, in front of colonial leaders. In 1698, Jamestown lost its statehouse to fire. That left the colony's main seat of government looking fragile and temporary. So on May Day 1699, 5 grammar school students gave 5 formal speeches. The orations were part of scholastic exercises, arranged by Governor Francis Nicholson and President James Blair. The House of Burgesses representatives received the speech as well. After that, leaders backed Middle Plantation as the new capital site. Middle Plantation soon became Williamsburg. The college's influence now sat beside the new capital, in streets, brick, and the House of Burgesses. A college journal survived because its president paid the bill himself. In 1892, that was the only way the William and Mary Quarterly could begin. Lyon Gardiner Tyler founded the journal to publish Virginia history and genealogical research. He wanted a place for family records, local sources, and early American questions. When the college would not fund it, Tyler covered the cost himself. That private payment kept the first issue moving from idea to printed pages. The journal did not stay small. It became one of the oldest academic journals in the United States, and it ran through 3 series over time. Its pages kept Virginia names, dates, and early history in print. A college decision, a president's checkbook, and a sturdy journal changed what survived on the shelf. Jefferson backed a language professor who had worked in a tax office, not a classroom. That strange choice landed Carlo Bellini at William and Mary. Bellini came from Florence and had worked in the Grand Duke of Tuscany's tax office. He reached Virginia in 1774 with his wife, then entered Jefferson's circle. In 1779, Jefferson secured Bellini a faculty post at William and Mary in Williamsburg. Bellini became the first professor of modern languages in North America. The appointment gave the college a new department for modern languages. Bellini taught there until 1803, year after year, in the same Williamsburg rooms. So Jefferson's support did not pick a perfect fit. It put Bellini in a faculty chair, and the college kept his name in its language rooms. After the Qing conquest, Gu Yenwu destroyed his own poetry. The pages did not stay on the shelf. Gu Yenwu had already failed the civil service exams, the main path to office. Then the Ming dynasty fell, and his world changed. Instead of preserving those early verses, he erased them. He turned from poetry to travel, taking notes as he moved. He became an itinerant scholar, crossing much of China. Along the way, he collected observations for later work. Gu Yenwu, born in 1613, kept moving until his notes formed a new body of learning. What remained was the road, the ink, and the brush. A Japanese base in Indonesia ended up as an army headquarters. The same gates and barracks later carried a new flag. In 1945, Japan surrendered, and control across many sites shifted fast. At this base, Indonesian youths moved in during the transition. The base was no longer just a wartime outpost. It was taken over, then folded into Indonesia's changing military landscape. Later, the site became the headquarters of the 16th Mechanized Infantry Brigade. Offices, maps, and command rooms replaced the old occupation role. A wartime structure had become a peacetime command post in Indonesia. The old base still stands in the memory of its gate, walls, and brigade. 5 Medal of Honor chaplains shared one surprising background. Every one of them was a Catholic priest. They were chaplains in military service, not combat officers. Their awards sit inside a very small corner of U.S. history. Since the American Civil War, that pattern has stayed the same. The Medal of Honor chaplains all came from Catholic priesthood. That leaves only 5 names in the category. The list is narrow enough to fit inside one military record book. So the strange pattern is simple and exact. 5 chaplains, 1 medal, 1 religious background. The story ends with a priest's collar beside the medal case. In early 1970s Mexico, a college football team's games were watched closely by the government. The story is tied to Diego Garcia Miravite, and the setting was Mexico during that period. On the field, the game looked ordinary: helmets, chalk lines, and a packed sideline. The odd part is not the score. The games were important enough to be monitored like a public issue, with officials tracking them beyond the stadium gates. That kind of attention turned football into more than a weekend event. A whistle, a sideline, and a scorecard could sit inside state scrutiny. For players and staff, the game carried an extra weight they could feel in the stands. The football itself stayed the same, but the government's gaze reached the sideline. A Genshin Impact character carries a name that sounds older than the game itself. Al-Haytham is the one people point to. The character is Al-Haytham. Fans connect that name to a polymath from the Islamic Golden Age, when scholars wrote across many fields. The link is not an official naming note here. It is a belief based on the name echoing a real scholar remembered for broad learning. That turns a game label into a small bridge. A player hears one name, and a much older world of scholarship comes into view. So Al-Haytham sits between a screen and a library shelf. One name can carry a scholar's memory into a character portrait. If one small decision can reshape a city, a journal, or a career, the rest of history starts to look different too. Subscribe for more true stories, and tell me which fact surprised you most.